Okay, I have got 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna call to order the Village Board of Trustees for October 7th. Start with the pledge.
Let's have a roll call first.
Oh, sorry, after that.
Okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You. If we can roll, please.
Yes, Larson. Trustee Bannon.
Here.
Trustee Casmar absent. Trustee Ward. Present. Trustee Ziegler.
Here.
Trustee Zerbis.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Was the meeting posted?
What's posted as required by law.
Okay, next on the agenda is public participation. Public participation allows citizens to be heard on any agenda and non-agenda item. The public may also comment during the public participation section of each item. The village board shall make no decisions or consideration of action of citizen comments for items not on the agenda, except to refer the matter to the village administrator for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for board consideration at a later date. As usual, if you've got comments for either agenda or non-agenda items, please take the podium, state your name, address, and try to keep comments under 3 minutes. Does anybody have any non-agenda items they'd like to discuss or comment on?
I don't know if it's an agenda or not.
You can ask me.
I'm just here with the conversation about the festival districts. It's brought up.
Okay, yes, I don't think we have an agenda item for the festival.
I don't know tonight, no.
So if you want to comment on it.
All I'm here is that,
Yeah, you're right.
I'm Andy Gunter. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce. And it was my understanding that a group of downtown businesses were going to ask for a change in the festival district. If that's the case, and if it's approved, then the chamber would withdraw our request for the festival district.
Yeah.
And that's it.
They came in on Friday. I was out of town last week, and I haven't caught back up totally, but I don't think they're looking at continuing that. We can have a conversation.
I don't think they ever turned in the paperwork.
No, you and I should have a conversation about it. I apologize for not getting back to you, but I will.
If that's the case, I'm going to leave.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Randy. Any other non-agenda items anybody has comments on? Seeing none, we will keep moving.
I reserved break.
Okay,
Conversation on agenda item.
okay, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, so consent agenda, all items on the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, considered as the first item after approval of the consent agenda. And this includes minutes from September 3rd, September 16th, September 30th, September 2024 check register, Q3 village board payroll, and Q3 year-to-date budget versus actual. And I need to make a motion, but I'd like to exclude Q3 village board payroll from consent.
We approve consent items A, B, C, D, and F.
Second it.
Okay, so we got a motion by Gary, seconded by Maxine. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. We're at 5, right? 5. Okay, relative to the village board payroll, I would suggest, or I don't say make a motion, that staff tabulate trustee Campbell's attendance at meetings during Q3 to make sure that he gets compensated for his attendance at those meetings. So if we need a motion, and I'm fine with deferring to, I don't think we need to have it come back to us once, if everybody's comfortable with that. So if you guys just calculate the attendance.
For our ordinance, I do need a motion from you guys.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to have staff calculate attendance for trustee Campbell's Q3 meeting attendance and adjust his compensation accordingly for Q3.
I'll second that.
I was gonna say, can you approve the
And approve
approve item E with that
Yes, with that.
With that on there would be the best motion to make. So
So,
if you guys are unanimously okay with that being the motion, okay.
okay, so Maxine was seconded it after that, so. Any further discussion? Do you need anything specific beyond that?
Got you. I'm sorry, say that again?
Nothing specific beyond that, that's sufficient.
No, just the motion would be to approve item E with direction to staff to calculate trustee Campbell's time and pay him accordingly.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, yep, that's what it's good.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries. Okay. Next, village president's report. I don't have anything. Gabe?
The October, so one thing when I was out last week due to the family emergency, I forgot to add Baker's Woods Phase 3 developments to this agenda. Most of you are gonna be on at the finance committee meeting on Monday. Do you mind doing a quick special meeting to approve the PUD that plan commission approved? Do that at 6, and you can start your meeting like 6:15. Since the majority of you will be there, actually, my finance.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, cool. And then the November 4th board meeting is the day before the elections. Traditionally, we'll do that either at the library or virtually. Good with that too.
We already,
I probably already.
I think we already put that on your calendar.
Yep.
Like,
Is all I have.
I just heard from the auditor, they're expecting to do the, start the 2024 audit, here December 4th. Monday, December 4th, I guess. That's it, that's what, right.
Aaron?
just a quick note about the election reminder, since it was brought up on November 5th. Early absentee, in-person absentee voting starts October 22nd. I'll say it again in 2 weeks. For interest, if anybody is interested, at the moment, we have sent out 323 absentee ballots in the mail and we received 106 back. So things are brisk and going.
I just have a question. Has anyone come to you about getting a ballot in with someone other than the municipality?
Not locally. I am aware that there was a group that sent out something that looked like a ballot about a different, it wasn't regarding the election, but they called it a ballot for an election. It was regarding something else that went out to a bunch of people. But nobody has come to me saying that they've received any kind of official kind of ballot from anywhere but me.
My neighborhood got ballots from an organization in Madison, and it was an official ballot with an envelope.
Yeah,
So I was curious if they only just targeted the townships or.
I'm unaware of anything like that. Everything seems to be, I haven't heard anything of that regarding the village, but try and keep on top of it.
Yeah, so the police department now has changed our lobby hours, so we're open, the lobby is open 8 AM to 8 PM. There's not always staff there, but you can access the drug drop in. We got a drop box if you got like non-priority paperwork that you don't need an officer. And then it gets you to our interior doorbell. We're working on getting a schedule of our office staff posted on the window in there. So if you come in and no one's there, you find out when she will be there. Our CIB audit, we passed the first phase of that. So through the DOJ, we had some corrections we made, and all we have left is the IT section there. We're working on some new found property stuff to get more of our found property back to its owners. Currently, there's no like public posting of any of it until it's time for it to go away, which could be 30 days to a year later. So we're looking at something right when we release it to have it posted either in the lobby and maybe on social media. We're working on transitioning from our current website, the Belleville Police website, to a drop-down menu on the village website. The old website is currently still functioning until it either runs out of its term of licensing, or we get the company to take it down that we've been working with. They're just not very responsive. So we're started on the village website in the drop-down services menu. The only other thing I got is the EMS chief has inquired about our squad car that we'll be selling next year once we replace the new one. It's looking like we have a private party value on Kelly Blue Book between, looks like low 14,000s to 16,000. I'm going to take it to the police committee to kind of narrow in where we have to be with it and work on getting some kind of tentative agreement with EMS. So we have some budget numbers for them and us. But that's all I have.
Don't have the exact numbers on all these things, but over the last couple of months, we've exercised water shut-off valves in the streets, which haven't been done for a number of years. Also, the fire hydrants were flushed, not all of them, but the percentage should be. And last week, the guy finished up jetting over 13,000 feet of sewer lines. And I'd also like to commend the entire staff because today our two senior staff members were out for personal reasons. But because of the time they've taken with the rest of us in training, everything during the day today ran smooth, and including the guys that were working. That was one full-time guy, myself, a high school kid, and a summer help guy. So I'd like to commend all the guys.
Thank you. Andrea? Nothing?
I have one more item. I had the DOT talk to me. They're doing State Highway 92 out here by Sugar River Park. I think that's in spring at some point. And right now we do not have a crosswalk from that neighborhood to Sugar River Park. And they are asking if it's okay if we put in a sidewalk, a crosswalk across the state highway. And there's a permit I had to fill out, but I want your approval to do it. You don't really have to.
I would think we want a crosswalk if we can have one. Can we
Yeah.
put in two
Or
or
also wanted to state that in case that would like to.
Can we shut down traffic?
Yeah, actually two. Two locations.
Yeah, so two, yeah, as many as we can get. Anything to slow down traffic is good. My opinion.
So we'll do that.
Okay. Thanks, good. Okay, next, old business, discuss and consider the October 21st depot presentation agenda.
Yeah, so met with Broadwing. They would like, this is just a draft. We can change it however we want it to be. And there's already a couple of changes that will need to be made, but this is their potential draft agenda of how the 21st would go. They would make the level introduction of the process. The Broadwing would kind of go through how did this happen, the goals of the RFP that the board approved, how we're selecting, what are the things that we're evaluating. So then first part would be that. Second part is the open session. 15 minutes was their guess. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes, but that was their general recommendation. They would do their team introductions, their concepts and the design. Again, we're not talking financials from this point of view, from their presentations. Second would be the second presentation. And then at the end of those presentations, the public will be able to ask questions for 30 minutes. Forums will be provided for the public to be able to ask questions and have it written down. And then Broadman will read those questions. And then the last would be a closed session. We can go through financials. Obviously, the other parties can't be in the closed session with you. So if there's financial questions, what would have to happen is you would have Broadwing go and talk to them and have to control them since they can't be in the closed session with you. Thoughts on?
So first comment, the selection criteria that are listed here, and I haven't looked at the RFP a while, but does that align with the details of the RFP?
Yeah, I think they copied exactly.
That's good. And then the second question or comment relates to closed session. I see that there's timelines in there. Are we planning that they're gonna present in closed session?
No, that was Broadway's original presentation, and that's what has to change is because they can't be in the
In the
closed session. So we have the financials. What we'll do is we'll go through them, Broadway's,
So that's really just gonna be the board considering,
and ask, and if you guys have any.
and we've got questions or that sort of thing.
We'll leave the room, Broadway and I will leave the
Yep.
room, ask them, and then
Yep.
come back.
Got it. Any other questions from the board relative to the structure of the agenda for?
Just the last point on here about the last asterisk down there. So Broadway will, or who's gonna determine if they're,
Crossing the line?
yeah,
Just, and
Well, so-
discussing that.
One comment that we were kind of going back and forth on, is would you like the presenters to be out of when the other group is going? Obviously, they're gonna see what goes on because we're gonna have it as a virtual meeting, so we'll have a recording of it. So they can always rewatch it, but up to you. Like, do you want the presenters, the other group to be out of the room?
I think it'd be better for, I mean, gives an unfair advantage to the second one up.
Because the second one's going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I think that makes sense.
That was, I'll tell them that that's what the board wanted. So then you can.
That's the best way to get an unbiased and, presentation without.
I mean, they'll be in there when the questions are asked,
Right.
obviously. We're not doing that separate. I think for presentation purposes, I think it makes sense to keep it isolated as much as possible.
Cool. You don't necessarily have to approve this. It's more of, are there any issues with it? And if they're good with it, then.
Questions or comments on
If you just at the bottom,
an amount?
if they want to pay for steeple.
We haven't even gotten to that point yet.
That's what I
We gotta
thought,
get presentation.
That information.
Yeah, we've got the presentation stuff.
Okay.
That's
We haven't discussed it as a board yet, but you do have that.
Okay.
right.
The board knows how much they're asking. Like the board knows how much the other, what the offers were.
The parties, sir. All right.
We don't have the ability to share that publicly just because it would disadvantage the offer, the competitive, like that, it just makes it a whole hot mess. If you and I were interested in buying a car and now all of a sudden it's public as to what you'll pay for the car and what I'll pay for the car, somebody can now come into the table and say, well, I'll pay more, and then you'll pay more. It's not fair. It's a fairness issue. That's true of like everything that we do relative to Judy.
So you must have a minimum. They offer more than your minimum.
Not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the criteria that's on the RFP is that we'll consider the purchase price offered, but it's potentially feasible that we could accept an amount below our minimum or a structure that doesn't even look anything like what we presented because it's such a great idea that it would make sense to go in a certain direction.
I think I know that.
I don't know what that means because I haven't seen the whole details of all this. I mean, we're still in the very early stages of navigating.
You're not gonna vote on it.
We are not, I don't expect that we're gonna have a decision on that night. No.
Okay.
No.
A lot of it is to get the board, to get the public's feedback. How did that go? What did you like? What did you not like?
Okay.
And then when the actual conversations go, all of the public stuff will be, once they're like, we really like this concept, all that stuff will become more public. But at this point, it's, what do you think of the ideas? How are they gonna help Belleville? What is their use? What's going on? How is it gonna drive business in Belleville? Not talking about the financials yet, because one might just steer the other right away, and you're not, that's not the point. The point is, what is it gonna do for Belleville? And then we go into that. Okay.
So that actually gives me a different, it's actually, I'm glad that you mentioned it that way. And I don't know the answer to this. Do we want public questions to be public questions or comments,
I think,
even if they're written down or otherwise. Because I think at this point, I don't think we have a forum right now for the public, other than to do it on like a non-agenda item, but for the public to make a comment regarding support or opposition. I don't.
I think the discussion we had at the meeting with Broadwing was written questions so that they could kind of
Correct.
scan those questions, because we
Sure.
don't want specifically, like,
Sure.
what color are the bathrooms going to
No, I
be? What
understand.
kind of
Yeah.
toilet paper
No,
are we going to
I understand
use?
that.
You
Yeah.
know, so.
Right. But we could do the same thing with comments, I guess is
Yeah.
my point, is
Yeah.
that we could have a written comment or a submitted comment that could be read. Maybe it's a different agenda item for that. I'm just throwing it out there because what I don't want to have happen is I don't want us to have this meeting, have all that sort of stuff, and then the public saying, we didn't have an opportunity to voice our opinion relative to the way what the different options were. But I also am sensitive to like, if that doesn't make sense.
Well, no, it makes sense, but then I'm also thinking, well, their plans have to, whichever group we go with, their plans for that building would have to go through plan commission for, I guess, I understand where you're going with comments and general comments, but I think would be okay, but specifics again about design or things like that.
Oh,
that-
yeah,
that will all go to plan. So-
Yeah,
I think you could do it. You hold hard and fast the 3-minute comment. Anybody
Right.
with a comment,
correct.
give your comment in 3
questions or
minutes.
Right.
Questions you write down and it'll be presented either during the meeting or.
so I guess you could do that. So you could have part of the presentation is the questions. And then at the end, it's comments.
Right.
You hold it to 3 minutes and you say, we're gonna do this for 45 minutes, and after that 45 minutes, we're done.
Which I'm,
Or whatever.
yeah, I'm just,
You would separate.
I'm hesitant to not have an opportunity to provide comments. That's my concern. But I absolutely agree, like, we will get comments that aren't in line with
Yeah,
what we're talking
right.
about, and that's,
Right.
we take that into consideration. We're not taking action on the comments, but it actually provides us good feedback to say like, well, this, like, my opinion could be swayed. There's a really great presentation that I really like the structure of it, but then like everybody that shows up to the meeting, the comments are like, no, we want this. Like that's important feedback to get.
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, kind of like the questions, constructive questions, or you got to do a certain point because, we've all seen what was out on Facebook already, and I usually,
Right.
again, I'm going to say constructive comments, but, not to just, we should do it, or,
Sure.
we should do this and that's it, why, or, is what I'm looking, so.
Somebody's constructive comment for mine, it might not be constructive for you and
Yeah.
vice versa. I'm not, I have a threshold for certainly what you're saying is like, yeah, we can't have questions that are immaterial, like that they can filter that, but I think comments make sense. Judy, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Based on previous historic happenings with that properties, if the room fills up and not everyone gets the opportunity to speak or give a comment within 45 minutes, that might be a problem.
Just the choice is, do you want 45 minutes or do you want 0 minutes? Because we're only having one meeting about this.
You could just say everybody goes once and you have 3 minutes.
And that might not be enough. I don't have control over that. I mean, I'm not staying till midnight to listen to comments. It's not gonna be,
Well, reasonable.
well, but you're,
Yeah, but
Your
your
reasonable is different than my reasonable.
Yeah.
More than like,
Connie.
Connie Herfer. I want to know if you're gonna hold up what has been said about the historical depot. I want to know if you are going to stand by what was said, that it will stay historical. It will stay there, not be torn down. I want to know if you're gonna hold that. that you will tell the new people cannot be torn down? Are they buying or leasing?
Yeah, you're asking a question to know that we can answer. I would say for me, like the goal is absolutely to keep it.
That was the board's goal. That was said, that it will be,
Correct.
it'll be there telling them that it cannot be torn down. It has to stay historical. That is what the board has said. I want to know if you're going to honor that.
We're gonna attempt to honor that, I think. I don't, again, I can't speak for the entire board, one, because we also don't have the details of all the plans that are being proposed. Now, what I'm saying is, part of the issue with this, again, I've said this before, that part of the whole difficult dynamic of this is that we're selling the property, right? Once you sell something, you lose control over that sale. Like, even if we put a contingency there, I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just like, that's one of the things that's sitting in the back of my mind. Like, ultimately, we have to trust, just like you have to trust us, that that's what we're going to try to do. And I absolutely agree with you. I don't think there's anybody on the board that doesn't want this to be a historical and renovated to a historical standard or something very similar to what it is now. But I don't know what all the different limitations that we can put in place are relative to doing that. I think what we're hearing, and again, from the proposals that are going to be presented are going to be in line with that as I understand it. But again, like,
Okay.
if we sell the building outright and we try to put contingencies in place and then all of a sudden in part of the renovation, the building falls down, like, I hope that never happens. I don't think that would happen, but I don't think it would either, but I don't think it would be fair to come back to the board to say, you didn't protect this. Right?
None of the plans had anything about them tearing down anything. All of them had restoration. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the rumors in town are, it's all getting ripped out, so.
No, that's not.
That's no.
All of them.
I can't believe rumors.
But
No, but it's, and I'm not trying to spook anybody. I'm just like that. Those are, we start talking about all the different things that are listed on the RFP. If you've looked at this, like there's a lot of stuff that's on there that's like, there's a lot of variables that we need to consider. I'm sorry, didn't mean to.
It's actually, you brought up a really good point. We do have to remember that buildings, they do everything in their power to keep them up. But just like the Muster Museum in the Middleton, as they were adding on and renovating it, that went down. They were able to manage the funds, but we'll just see what happens. I really hope it stays. I think everybody does too.
Yeah. Any other comments? Does everybody think about having a comment section, 45 minutes for?
I think that's good.
After the questions or make the questions and comments 45 minutes total?
I think it would be after the questions. That I think is what was being suggested. And I think that seems reasonable. But I know that's another 45 minutes, but I think we'd be,
I think it's worth it.
I think it's residents deserve to have a voice, whether it's 45 minutes of time or not. I think it's like, but I agree. I think we should definitely stick to the 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And they could also submit it too in writing and not have to speak.
Right.
Like that's fine too. We'll get it. We can read it. That's fine.
Go to a legislative hearing, you got your choices of talking or not, and
Yeah.
or putting
both,
it right.
whatever. I mean, there's some people that aren't going to be comfortable standing up and speaking, especially in front of a large group. So I think the importance is to get it in front of the board. I'm assuming we could even provide a deadline for getting things in writing to the board? Because there's some people that might not want to put something together until after hearing the presentations, because they're not going to know the details necessarily of things.
Well,
I don't.
it's no matter when I receive something, statutorily I'm required to bring it to the board. So you can put I don't know what, you mean time for that night or a time like in general?
No, like in general, like if it's within the next week or two.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to say, you know, it's recommended that you send your comments in by this date, but if something came 2 days later, I'd be statutorily required.
Yeah, I'm more thinking about weeks.
Yes.
Not that,
Because again, there's gonna be, again, we're not making a decision that night. We're gonna start proceeding and assuming that new actions that would be related to.
We can put it on social media. If you have any questions or comments that you want to make sure staff discusses during the presentations, please.
does that make sense to everybody or
It's 45 minutes long.
long enough?
The goal would be 45 minutes, and if it goes longer, then it goes longer.
Exactly. No. I'm sorry.
15 people with 3 minutes apiece.
Right.
Math.
That's good.
Any other comments about that? Do we need any,
We need a formal motion or
just, that seems reasonable.
Good.
That sounds reasonable to me. I think we have an upper limit of time that's probably. I don't even know. I've got to see the agenda, the fourth agenda, because we've got,
You have the board.
we have a trustee vacancy.
Do you want to do that first, or do you want to do this first? And they're not gonna sit until November 4th.
I want to do the trustee after, I think, just because.
Traditional long meetings, 101.
Yeah, well, 101 is probably college level at this point. Maybe masters. Yeah, okay. I think after for sure, but I gotta see the agenda to see how, I mean, it's gonna be
Just those two. I've held it.
just those two, but it's.
Famous last words.
Okay. Any other comments on that at all? We're good? Okay. So next, discuss and consider the Director of Public Works and Utilities job posting and position description.
We discussed this a little bit at finance, and we discussed this in Public Works Committee, but we have it in the budget. And I think we regret if we don't do it, so rehire a full-time Director of Public Works and Utilities. That would leave us one director, 4 operators. Originally, yeah, this is the same job posting and position description that you approved already. Same salary from everything. Whereas retired and not achieved a Public Works Director within this range not that long ago, so I feel hopeful that we can. This thing.
And they have another utility.
And
Other.
You know, who else handles the utility? The financial specialist position that's closing on Friday. That I forgot to mention during my report.
Okay. Not writing that down.
We want a motion to do this or?
Yeah, you guys have to approve this.
Move that we proceed with the posting of the public or Director of Public Works and Utilities position.
for a second there. Tony. Again, for public reference, this is replacing a current vacancy that we have for an operator with a director.
So what we did was, we already had one vacancy. By removing the director's position, we created another vacancy. So we would have 5 operators, 2 superintendents, 3 operators. We've just filled the operator role. Now we're filling. We're gonna go back and fill the director. Staff number does not change.
A question concerning the job position description. Or what's listed in the job description as far as education and duties and the salary that's for that, I believe is a little low. They have to have all their certifications. They gotta have CBL. They have to have a degree. And then
For a loop there.
And all the tasks or things that they do. $76,000.
It's the minimum is 75, the max is 82.
Which is based on our job description. Does the fellow in New Glarus that just got hired? Does he have the qualifications based on that?
Yep. And they have an extra utility, they have an electric
They have an
utility besides what we have.
Right, I understand what they all have.
If he's qualified for theirs, then he'd be qualified for ours.
How many years has he been a public works director?
I have no idea. That is,
Nobody.
New Glarus side, when is New Glarus meeting? You ask them, I have no idea.
Just curious, because to me, that's a low number.
I wish we could pay more.
The last three public directors, we works director.
Yeah,
This is way more than they need.
Yeah, canned or.
I understand that, but they didn't even have half the qualification.
Any other comments? Okay, we've got a motion by Gary, seconded by Tony. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Next, new business, discuss and consider the scope and cost for the State Highway 69 and Tyler Street intersection.
So I believe Kevin is online, but this is part of the TID projects. So, Olson Avenue is to the west of that, where should have been on tonight for the Bell West Phase 3. This is that intersection that we put in the TID projects. So it's going to look exactly the same as what we had for Olson Avenue. The entrance, the curb, the drive-in, it is a complete copy, pushing it to the next side. And Kevin, are you still online?
Yes, I am. And the only thing I would add to that, Gabe, is we anticipate it's an identical copy to Olson Avenue though, but one of the first steps will be meeting with DOT as required and just making sure, but that's our anticipation.
We're expecting the turn lane to be extended then, basically that third lane.
Yep, there'll be a left turn lane in coming from the west and then a right turn lane in from the east. So yes.
Okay, so it'd have to be two lanes added essentially for a short, or actually, no, they'd be three lanes because one's on
Yep.
one side of the intersection,
Yep.
one's on the other. Got it.
Correct.
It's Tyler. It's the next intersection that will be to the west of Olson. So Olson is the entrance to my neighborhood. So it'll be the new entrance to the new development for Baker's Woods 3. So past the soccer fields on the way Quick Trip, but
Sort of
not quite that far out. So where the ravine is there, it'll be just past that, the wooded area.
Close to the John Baker Drive. Little
Yes,
to the
I think so.
west.
Correct. Yeah, so I don't know, Connie, if you've been to Plan Commission, but the neighborhood where the well station, now I'm talking about on James Road, on James Avenue. Okay, where James Avenue, so if you came from Quick Trip on the back way where the well house is out there, do you know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Okay, the parking lot for that well house will be one of the streets that goes straight south into this neighborhood.
Okay.
So it'll be about, not a full block, but it'll be a little bit east of that, where that would intersect with 69.
Okay, so it's not the dead end road piece.
No, that's another, this is actually on 69, so it'll be a road off of 69 to get
Okay.
into that neighborhood.
Okay.
Ultimately, we'll connect over to Quick Trip as well, but that's a different connection, a different conversation.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve MFA task order for the State Highway 69 and Tyler Street intersection design not to exceed $65,500 or $950 to come from bid 3.
Second.
Motion by Gary, seconded by Tony. Any further discussion? Again, this is coming from the TIF, so this was a planned expenditure relative to the funding for this. It's required for the development that's planned to be going forward. We'll be talking about it next Monday. Because we didn't get it on the agenda
Yeah, we're
tonight.
gonna talk about that. Well, you've already approved everything except the single family.
The preliminary.
Yeah, but like you approved the zoning,
Right.
you just haven't approved everything like where it's gonna look like fully yet, but you've approved that this is what we want there, that's what we've expected there. So it's just that.
So in other words, the TIF money that is available to you will be used for the project.
For the road construction, yes, yeah.
Okay,
Not the entire road, just the entrance off 69.
all right, 'cause that was my next question.
Yeah.
The developer should pay.
The developer's doing all the roads.
Yeah, everything
Get into
within the plat, the develops. This connection from 69 to where their road is going to terminate. It meets very close to 69.
Yeah, I think, do you remember how much we put in the bid for this?
It was
700-800.
like 900 and I want to say 960,000, but that was for two entrances.
Right.
That was for this one and the one that terminates right now on that part of a road.
From behind Quick Trip.
Yeah.
So between both of them, it's like.
I know that would,
Yeah.
and I should know the name of that. I've seen it a million times.
Edison.
Yes, Edison.
Yeah.
There it is.
Thank you.
And this is actually very significant because although it goes through this new development, this actually will reduce traffic quite, I hope, quite a lot on Olson through that whole neighborhood. Because you'd exit, if you were getting to Quick Trip, you'd likely take this exit and turn left on that first connection to get past the chiropractic office and that way instead of going through all the neighborhoods.
I was at that planning meeting. I didn't go to the second one because I had own work. But I got the impression that that street was going to be like the street that's in the PUD district.
These are gonna be fully up to standards of the village.
Yeah, they're going to be dedicated to the village afterwards, so they got to be built to our spec.
It is in a PUD, but the PUD is only to reduce the size of the lots. That's the only exception.
Because I was gonna say that
They're
street
Gonna be full curb and gutter, full sewer and
sidewalk.
same width. Yep.
Okay,
Connie, did you have a question?
I have a comment.
Before.
That's what bothers me is they're getting smaller.
Yeah.
It's gonna build a rectangle homes pretty soon.
They're still sizable properties, but that doesn't have to do with the street.
I don't have to live there. Stay in my old home forever.
Any other questions or comments or? Okay, so we had a motion by Gary, seconded by Tony to approve the proposed or the task order up to $65,950. All in favor? Aye, opposed? That passes. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks all.
Next is discuss and consider a resolution approving Halloween hours for 2024.
The resolution for this was given to you guys. Apologies for not getting it out before I disappeared and back. Go ahead, Cody.
So it should pretty much just copy everything we did last year. It's on Halloween, 4:30 to 8, and then it has in section 3 that you can only approach a house with the front light on. So it's pretty standard, just the village should have something established that they want people to trick or treat during. So, but it should be almost a copy from last year's.
Comments? I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-27 to adopt Halloween hours for 2024.
Second.
Okay, now discussion. Sorry.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Why 4:30 to 8? Because I guarantee you, most of the people that work in Madison are home till 5, so their kids aren't gonna go out before 5.
Which is fine.
And I get kids till 10:30, 11. I mean, seriously. So I think that we should amend this at least from 5 to 8.
I can speak a little to that based on, these were the recommended hours from the elementary school principal last year. And her reasoning for that, the 8 PM mostly was to get the kids in bed so they weren't exhausted or skipping school the day after. That's why the 8 PM, most of the kids that do come out are high school or middle school or high schoolers, the 9 PM, they really,
I will also comment on the 4:30. I agree, many people aren't gonna be home, so keep your lights off and they won't come to your house before 5. hopefully.
Yeah, they will.
Well, they will, but they're not, that's the reality. But part of the 4:30 time, I remember, because that actually part of my neighborhood is some of the really little kids, like that's when their parents are able to take them out. It's not super cold outside yet, so they're able to navigate that
Well,
for a
they'll
little
come,
while, so.
they'll come, and I get a lot of little kids
Sure,
from
sure.
all over. And
I'm talking
Like,
little kids
they're
like
not
5,
gonna
6
get
years old.
there.
I'm talking about like,
Yeah.
not kids that are on their own. They're like with their families getting pulled by wagons,
yeah,
that sort of thing. So
I guarantee you they're not gonna get there before 5:30.
we're seeing people at 4:30 pretty easily in my neighborhood.
I didn't, I got older kids, but not younger kids.
Judy?
This is related but not related. Marcia Rear, who ran the K4 Halloween parade downtown, has retired. Do we know if that's gonna take place this year? Have you heard anything, Cody?
I haven't heard anything, but I think sometimes they get to us a little bit later
Okay,
as we get closer. I haven't heard anything as of yet of them stopping around. I thought they'd already sent a letter or something. Businesses.
Marcia used to send out a notice to all the business people that they had 2 groups, a morning group and an afternoon, because K4 is only half a day. And they would parade around. So since Marcia retired and she was the one in charge, I'm going, okay. Does it mean I don't have to buy $100+ in candy?
All the school has it.
I would recommend reaching out to the 4K teachers at the school, because they're the ones that would be planning that.
I have no idea who they are.
Their information's on their school website.
So Cody, I'm assuming we're not gonna be arresting trick or treaters at 8:30 at night if they're out.
Well, I think these are just the guidelines for the village. And yes, I'm set, yeah. You should, if that's what you want.
No, I'm not. I'm jokingly asking that question. Thank you, Cody. But no, but that's the point though, right? It's like, if you shut your light off at 8 o'clock, you shouldn't be getting trick or treaters, but there are gonna be kids that are gonna be out there.
9 o'clock, 9:30, like that's gonna happen.
I think this is just to give guidelines to.
To residents. Trick or treating.
Okay, so I've got a motion, I made the motion, seconded by Tony to adopt the proposed Halloween rules for 2024. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, got that done. Next, discuss and consider the Civic Plus website provider contract.
So we've discussed this at the finance committee meeting, but it's time to change our website. Our current contract expires April at 14th of next year. I have already met with Civic Plus, and they would have a new website live, the exact date that our current website provider kicks the can. So then we'll have a seamless transition. There's a
Not the
lot
contract, not the provider.
contract.
Kicks the can.
Kicks the can.
Yeah.
Well, our current provider is not the best provider. Does not have the quality of website that residents can expect in many other municipalities. For not that much more money, I think it's about $750 more a year. We have a state-of-the-art website that can do or connect communication with the residents. They can get updates a lot easier. And the biggest thing is staff. It'll make the clerk's office job
Minimize staff time by
1,000 times easier to make it, put up agendas and items to the calendars, all of that. Thank you. If you want,
you'd be surprised how much I spend.
yeah, if you want to take
Fighting
look
website.
examples, in Dane County, Wanakee, Sun Prairie, Cottage Grove, all have Civic Plus websites, but it's the largest website provider in the country, so most municipalities have them.
Is this also gonna include the migration to .org instead of .com?
Nope, this is different. Our website, our IT provider.
Is gonna
will
help
do that.
navigate that.
We'll probably still have our current website when we do that, but it'll just transition.
So this would be under the .org structure, or the .org.
Well, this will .gov.
I was gonna say,
And the
Or
track is
.gov, I'm sorry,
.gov.
.org, sorry. myemployers.org, that's why.
We'll have .gov.
Okay.
And they will do most of the transitions, like I think 150 pages on the website and that we have to do the rest.
So relative to Cody's earlier conversation about the police website, what's the? I'm assuming we're taking that into account relative to you being on menus, all that sort of thing. Is that's gonna be part of Civic Plus, or it's part of this pricing, or is it a whole different?
All the same, this pricing. We have thousands, you can have thousands of pages. They will just upload 150 of them, which we don't.
Which is fine, I'm just like, but right now, do you guys have your own provider?
They have their own provider and we've been paying for it out of the budget. We told them no, they need to be under our.
Got it, okay, so that part of that structure actually doesn't save us money, because it's probably more expensive, but it saves us money from.
In the short term, because they're no longer gonna do their website provider, it's gonna go into ours. While ours is going up because we're switching,
Right.
they're still not having two websites.
When does the work start once this contract is approved?
Whenever I tell them, I have discussed with them that I can have start preliminary conversations middle of November. Because then what we'll have on our end is making sure, updating as much as we can on the website, making sure everything's up to date. And then they will do the transition. But then a lot of it is design process. Do we like the colors? Do we like the photos they've used, the icons, the layouts? All of it.
So the timing for when, working backwards from when they renew this contract,
Mhm.
where does the contract time start? When they start developing our new website or when we go live?
We will pay
Because there's a 1-year timer there somewhere on when we renew.
January 1st. So we don't have it in the budget for this year, but we've agreed to start it November, December, whenever we want. Once you approve the budget, because this is in the budget, I will just tell staff to submit the payment from them. So the contract would go January.
So
to
they can
January.
potentially start building the new website now.
Yeah. And they won't bill us until January. And then.
Does this include what I consider to be maintenance or change, like moves, adds, changes, once we go live,
Generally with Civic Plus,
or if there's a problem with the website, for example,
this is the customer
it's
service.
bad, so the page doesn't load.
Customer service, yeah. This is their price for customer service and all that. Most of the editing with them is us. Like the website, they give us the color and the layout of what it has to look like, but we design it. We do it, we change it. It's on us. So,
Like I looked up Wanikki's website on my phone just to see how their mobile version of a website looks. And the first link I clicked on was for agendas and minutes, and I get a warning that the certificate's expired 5 days ago. So page doesn't load.
we had that problem when I was there,
So,
but that was a Wanakee.
well, that becomes a question on who owns the certificate and is responsible for updating it.
Us.
Well, that's gonna add an expense then on top of this.
Well, the domain.
And I guess why would we have to upload our own certificate into the website to make it valid?
Because it's our domain. We own villageofbelleville.shop.
You have to buy a certificate. And
I don't believe so.
I guess I'm a little more into wishing this was more of a full service contract then. If they would manage that.
No website provider for governments would. And the other one that we would go with, it's about $700 more a month. It was unreasonable.
So to a neophyte like me, what I understand a certificate is like a validate. Well, Gary, what do you?
I
you would-
agree. I'm sitting here
I'm
thinking the
just saying,
same
I'm
thing.
ignorant of like,
I'm
a
sitting here
certificate
thinking
sounds
the
like,
same
I
thing.
know it's like a validation, but I guess what I'm wondering is would our IT folks cover that aspect of it for us? Cause it's a security thing, right? Like it's validating that it's up to
It
date.
encrypts the communications and validate.
So would that be something our IT provider that we just engaged with would,
Well, it's an added expense. Our IT provider is not
isn't gonna do it?
gonna do it either.
Well, we do know we have the project to go to www.villagebelleville.gov. That's already on their scope, so. I don't expect any extra costs associated with the program that you're referring to.
So what other things would require, well, so can you describe it in very basic terms?
Layman's terms. Yes.
What the certificate does?
Yeah, like
or,
what functionality does it perform?
It certifies that the website that you're browsing to as a user
Right.
is officially that provider. So it's not and redirected to some nefarious website trying to harvest your information or something. So have you ever been clicking around on the web and you get a notice that pops up and says, hey, this isn't valid? That, you
I
know.
try not to visit sites like that, so.
Those make sure that they're up to date so you don't get stopped. But yeah, I guess that's.
Would it make sense to ask our current IT provider either what exposure or what additional costs there would be for them to cover?
Well, so
Or
we
if we
already
ask-
have this already, so like this isn't even a problem that we're.
Right, we already have a certificate. Ours is from a company called Let's Encrypt.
Is there just a renewal every year for that then, or
Yeah.
a charge or whatever?
Well, is that part of our website provider or is it separate from that?
It's separate from our website provider. Our website provider wouldn't have given it to us. We would have had to do
I
it
don't
ourselves.
know how we manage it here, so that's.
Okay. So it sounds like that would still be in place and it shouldn't be.
It literally just, like the website right now looks like as it does,
Usually it's on how many years too.
November or
Yes.
April 1st, it'll have just a whole new look. Like you won't know anything changed except like the back end stuff, like.
No, I understand that, but I think to Mike's point is like, he's just concerned that there's still gonna be encryption, there's still gonna be validation. It sounds like that's the case and you're comfortable with it, but
It'll be
it
the same
doesn't,
thing.
it seems like we can still ask the question.
Yeah, but I wouldn't delay that. I wouldn't delay approving this for that. Because it'll smoothly just transition from, I've done this 3 times. It'll just transition from the one website to the new one.
So what's the cost of this program?
First year is
5132.
5132, and then every other year is 43. And right now we pay 36.
It's just us or us and PD.
It's us, and then PD is extra, whatever they're paying for their website.
So this 5,200 includes the PD and it's in next year's budget.
And all the transitioning to it, the design of it, all of that.
Everybody's on their own, though, right?
Library has their own agenda, website. And like, it doesn't cost more to add pages or new things or everything like that. It's just, the biggest cost for that first year is transitioning everything, making it look right, the design of it. Cause it's a process, like, do I like this colors? Do I like these logos? I wanna change that, I wanna change these icons. I don't like how this is worded, like, it's a process.
Well, yeah, it's a product. We're going through the work now. It's pain.
Then they're gonna update like all of like previous 5 years of agendas on there. Everything back, like it's not simple work.
Do they have a monthly check on programming of this or not?
They would have,
That included in this.
they would have a minute by minute, if something goes down, they would know and we would check on it as well. And if we can't do it, then you call Civic Plus and their customer service would help.
Would they charge us extra for that then or not?
This is part of their,
Okay.
the only thing they're gonna charge us extra for is if we wanna upgrade or add other modules or anything like that.
And it looks like there is an upcharge of 5%
After year two.
after year two, right? Or applied in year two, so it'd be after the first year.
Yeah.
So the initial fee for 2025 would be 5132.20. 2026, I'm assuming, would be 4282, and then the third year is when the increase would.
I would assume so. That's how I.
Yeah, I would want to confirm that with them because they say year two, but year
I would
two,
actually, I would say that actually this year is the first year from all of 25 is 51. 26 would be the 42
82.
with a 5%, up to a 5% uplift.
Well, subject to uplift. So it's literally going to be 4282.20 plus 5%.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did they write it?
And then what's the third year?
It'd be under 5% of it, essentially. Well, it doesn't say that. That's what's confusing about this, because the annual uplift is 5%, so I'm assuming that 5% is starting in year two. It could be on top of that. Right?
So you're talking a couple $100 more.
Well, but it's,
So like the highest we would pay in year two would be 2,400 or 40 or 4,400. Because 5% of that is $200 roughly.
right, 4496, almost 4,500. But my point is that the uplift is 5%, so that would be applied year three as well, year four, et cetera. But it's not worded that way. That's why I'm confused.
I think with the annual uplift.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but it says, the language on the right is that it says invoice, or I'm sorry, that it's to be applied in year two. It doesn't say starting in year two.
Just contract before.
It's a 1-year contract, so we can always, we can make it.
We can always do,
We're last time we were locked in for.
okay.
So this doesn't, well, it's more than a 1-year contract though.
It's an automatic 1-year review.
It's automatic renewal. So we basically have a contract in perpetuity, but we can cancel it within 60 days notice.
Right. And every year it'll go up at least 5%.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming, but the way it's worded is not bad, but just, it's not clear.
So this seems to be the best one for us. Am I correct, Gabe?
Yeah, it's by far the best one.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we consider the Civic Plus website provider contract for year 2025 forward.
Consider,
Approve it.
Second.
okay. Motion by Maxine, seconded by Gary to approve the Civic Plus website provider contract for year 2025 moving
And
forward.
forward.
Which I think it'll start immediately. They're actually,
Yeah.
part of the contract is they won't bill us till January 1st. And it's pretty clear in the language that it's good until December. So it's essentially a little bit over a year. Give us a little discount. But Mike, do you have concerns relative to the certificate or?
No.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Next is discuss and consider resolution requesting an exemption to the Greene County Library tax exemption.
So we approved the Dane County one last time. This is the same thing. This is a yearly thing that we have to confirm to the counties in order to receive the library tax exemption.
I will make a motion to adopt resolution 2024-26, which requests an exemption for the Greene County Library tax exemption.
Second it.
Motion by me, seconded by Maxine. Any further discussion?
You guys will get one for Dane County too at some point.
We got it last time. Been there,
I'll bet.
done that.
Did you just blank out when she just?
Yeah.
She doesn't
Yeah.
listen.
Now, let you listen. I do listen sometimes.
All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Okay, that passes.
Next, discuss and consider RFP for the issuance of 2024 USDA loan interim financing and 2024 capital fund debt issuance.
Y'all figure it out.
This one's all you.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's, so the USDA interim financing, it's just so that we can put the annual debt service of the USDA loan for new library on the tax levy. So that's the total payment. We do this every year. We'll have to do it every year for as long as we have the loan through USDA. So there's that. The larger borrow is for all of the capital from 23 and 24. I've broken that down in the attached spreadsheet. The only question I have really relative to that is for the length of the loan. What you guys, so due to new legislation, we can actually borrow a note through the bank for up to 20 years as opposed to just 10. So that is an option. I have kind of quick and dirty numbers of what the impact on the tax levy would be for 10, 15, or 20 years. I will say that the majority of what is there has a useful life of 5 to 7 years. There are a couple of items which would be 15, 20 or more. But it's only 150,000 worth of the borrowing that has lifespan over 10 years. So it's
Expected interest rate looks like it's 5 3/4. I was
for
reading,
the interim financing because it's
The-
going to be short term.
not for now for the capital fund.
Yes, capital 5.5.
How does that compare to other debt that we have outstanding?
It really depends on the year you're looking at. So we didn't take out anything last year, which was great. 22, all we got was, I want to say Clean Fire Fund loan at 22. Before that was 2018, 19. I believe those numbers are in the 4s, and then the further you go back, the lower the interest rate is. That's why it really hasn't made sense for us to take a look at refining anything that we have outstanding.
Ian, what's the impact on taxes?
So like I said, this is quick and dirty based on assessed values for Dane Green County. I worked it out using the 5.5% model, which it may come back a little bit higher, may come back a little bit lower when we actually put it out. The borrow principal is 595,000. 10 years, the interest would be 179,877. The impact on $1,000 worth of assessed property value would be 26 cents. Actually, it's 25.9 cents. So a $100,000 home would have a tax impact of $25.91 on up. Where we average between $300,000 and $400,000 for our home, so it would be between a $77 and $104 impact for 10 years. Same number for 15 years. Your total, looking at total loan principal and interest of $875,000 and change. For a $300,000 to $400,000 or $300,000 to $400,000 home, that would be $58 to $78. And then finally, for 20 years, total principal and interest would amount to $982,000 and change. Total impact for $300,000 to $400,000 home would be $49 to $65.
What was the first one that you gave?
First one, I did principal, then interest, but both P and I together would be $774,877. And the total for $300,000 to $400,000 home would be between $77 or $103,000. $77 or $103.
And what were you saying about 26 cents per thousand?
Yeah, the impact on the mill rate, so it'd be 26 for 10 years, 20 for 15, or 16 for 20 years. That would be the impact on our mill rate.
The mill rate.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, tax per thousand.
got it.
I thought the UTV signage was paid for by the club.
Thank you, Gary. I was just going to ask that.
Oh, okay. Like $1,500.
Well, not that, yeah, because I'm just looking, I mean, I don't think we should go 20 years with this because like I said, there's a lot of items on here that
Oh, yeah.
are small amounts and we'll have them sold and rebought twice by the time we get them paid off. So.
Yep. I said the things that have the longest lasting life are the library roof, which that should be 40+ years considering we put composite roofing on. The road maintenance would probably adds about 15 to 20 years worth of life on the roads. Otherwise, just about everything is be nice and say between 5 and 10 years.
Is the vent or the vent hood and transport, is that the one that the PD got for, what was it, for testing? Cody?
Yeah, we did.
Drugs, packages, right?
But that was all pretty much covered.
Okay.
What is it?
Yeah, most of that was grant, I think, except for a small, we had to increase it a little bit, I think, because there was.
Oh, it wasn't on a grant. We took away from computers and put in that.
We did that originally, and then you got the grant that came back to cover most of that chunk. And the original equipment actually came. So all the equipment was covered.
Okay. So
We had the shipment rate. We had the 800 for freight. And then you got that grant through the League of Municipalities to
For 6.
cover some of that.
Okay, so it's $200.
Sorry. And if you wanted to take that out, I could just pull 200 from somewhere.
Yes, please.
We've got some really long-term stuff like the library roof. I think even arguably the facilities projects for Broadwing could be considered longer term.
It all depends how you want to roll it together.
Well, that, I'm just trying to figure out like, what's SRTS?
Safe routes to school.
So that, to me, that's a longer term thing, because that's gonna, like, ultimately, once we. And the Fifth Avenue LRIP, that's the surface, that's redoing Fifth Avenue up by Casey's, right?
Yeah, and
We will eventually get 26,000 and some odd change back.
I was gonna say, part of that came from LRIP money, so the 61 was the total project.
Yeah, the 61,712 was the total of everything we've got.
Yeah.
I don't know when we're gonna get reimbursed from that, so.
I guess
And Vine Street, we aren't doing right now. We're just doing gonna do a temporary patch and then work on that. So that won't be expended this year.
well, but was there any planning that was done was there cost to do some of the stuff that?
That's all the costs of all the engineering that's gone in so
Yeah,
far.
that's the engineering, it's not the
Okay.
actual work, but that's like 6,400. But I guess where I'm looking at is like the squad that's in here, the financial management plan, like computers, like the Ventrac,
Those are all 5 to 7.
those are all shorter term, and that's, I'm sorry.
Ventrac maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little, yeah, I'm not trying to critique the purchases at all, I'm just like general maintenance, like there's a lot of stuff in here that's a lot shorter term,
Yeah.
so I'm hesitant to.
General maintenance is the street maintenance, so that one's 15 to 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking we shouldn't, if we can go 10 years, I mean, cause yeah, the mill rate definitely goes down at 15 and 20, but it's also for 5 or 10 years longer, so, you know.
The amount of interest.
Yeah.
On those loans.
Right.
Yeah.
It heads up quick.
But yeah, I'm thinking at 10 years.
But 20 years, it pretty much doubles.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
Like the library, paying that thing over 40 years with that USDA loan, you know, that just multiplies the interest on there some fierce, so.
But I also am sensitive to the fact that it's a burden to service it, but I just,
We can, another thing that I was gonna talk to Brian about after this, depending on the term that you guys want to go through, is how it's structured. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be structured in a straight line. So like we can kind of play with it so that we're paying, more in the towards the middle of the loan,
Sure.
towards the end of the loan.
amortize it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful, because thinking about how respectively the village will be cash flowing based on debt service that we've got, that could be very helpful to have it hit more significantly in a few years where we've got a little bit more breathing room. If that makes sense.
I mean, so with debt service, it all comes off the top anyway.
Right.
So it's in addition to whatever we tax for operating. Regardless of what it is. I mean, there's literally no limit besides your limit to borrow.
Ask this question, like,
If you wanted to do it in 1 year, you could do it in 1 year.
well, I guess that was kind of like the term of the loan, how impactful is that to the rate? Pretty, like, the rates are gonna be pretty similar regardless. Whether we,
Yeah, I would
10
imagine,
years or 20,
I would imagine that they're likely to be more
lower
apt to give you a lower rate the longer you go.
the longer term. Because there wouldn't be any prepayment penalty, I'm assuming.
No.
No. I don't like doing this. I know I would go for a longer term, get a lower rate, and then just pay it off early, but that's
It won't get paid off early.
the thing.
What did you say, Ian, your last comment?
It won't get paid
It
off
won't
early.
get paid off early.
Okay.
I've been doing this for a long time. I can tell you there's no way in God's green earth that you look back at your debt service in 6 years and go, let's pay that off. It's not gonna happen. May refinance. it,
Yeah, I say you might refinance it.
But it isn't gonna get paid off early.
So that comes down here and builds someplace. Even then.
Well, it's not even that, it's just, it's the structure,
Yeah.
it's what the board or a board would behave, because like, we could, we could say borrow it with a 20-year amortization and pay on a 10-year schedule. But even then, there's still flexibility to give us breathing room for that.
So if we went, I was writing the numbers down, but so if we go 15 years, it goes from 177 to 104 to what were the numbers?
So the 77 to 104 was 10 years,
Yeah.
58, it was 15 years is 58 to 78.
Yeah.
20 years is 49 to 65.
And that's the average between 300 and 400.
Right.
And this is additional money that's gonna be put on our taxes, right?
Yes.
For stuff that we've already purchased. Yep.
And I think we need to go the longer rate because taxes are way too high as it is.
The problem is,
I realize it's not always good to go longer, but sometimes you gotta bite the dust and
but the
pay.
issue is we're gonna have borrows in 20, we'll likely have borrows in 26, 27, and
Every single year that we can
It's-
see moving forward, unless something drastic happens.
Correct.
Well, just to see how this flies, I'll make a motion that we go with a 15-year financing. Other than for the library, or, yeah, because that's.
the library, that's totally.
Right,
15 years is 58 to 78
For the
dollars,
capital.
right?
for the capital, borrowing for 2023, 24.
And that's 58 to 78 dollars, right?
Correct. For an average home with
Estimate, yeah.
300 to 400,000
Okay.
value. Seconds,
I think I'll second that. It's better than a 5 or a 10 year.
can't do five.
And you could
You could,
We
but
could,
that's,
but
We
that,
could, but that would be
That's
horrible. This is horrible.
have 100,000, oh, more than 100, you have like 100.
This is all absolutely horrible.
so if you went on the low end,
I'm sorry?
I didn't spend it, don't.
No, I'm not, yeah, this is,
So so if we went 58 was the low end for 15-year, right?
That's
So that's,
300,000.
yeah, so that's $870 over the lifespan of that, whereas if you go 74 over 10, so this is an extra $130 approximately over that 10 years, you're gonna, for that additional 5 years, so. Then you pay if we did it over 10 years.
But we might get it at a lower interest rate.
Well, I'm just going by the numbers you gave us, Maxine.
I know.
Yeah, we might get it at a lower interest rate, but the issue is that
Paying more interest.
it's not even that, it's that we have more debt that will come on
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah.
So we're just kicking the can down the road. Like
Right.
the burden is gonna be there. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know that I'm gonna be on the board in 5 or 10 years from now, but like that's still gonna be,
Still, yeah.
the issue to me is when you're looking at the assets, and I think 15 years, I could probably be persuaded. But I'd need to look at the capital breakdown to say what portion of that 595,000 that we're talking about has a lifespan of, like, I know like the roof does. I think,
You're talking greater than 10 years, it's probably $150,000 there.
right, so you're talking about a quarter of the total spend, say it's 600,000, so it's about a quarter of the total spend is over 15 years or over 10 years. The rest of it, the vast majority of it is 10 years or less.
So we'll have it replaced a couple times, man.
Well, but that's the issue, is that we're literally saying, well, we're gonna borrow this and try to spend it over, or try to pay it off over 15 years for stuff that doesn't have a life. We're gonna be paying it off and having it paid off before we need to replace it, but it's also like there'll be other debt that will get added on top of that. So
If you add in Broadway here at 30% is over 10 years.
But at the same time, we're giving residents the fact that they're gonna have $58 to $78 put on their taxes versus 77 or $103.
I get it.
I mean, taxes are just too dang high now. I'm not sure people can afford them now.
It's too, that we do retire debt every year. So we just retired a loan that we had through the bank this year. I don't remember exactly what the debt service was on it off the top of my head, but we had no staying debt across it. That's all.
I put the motion out, but I'd be willing to listen to something different, so.
I just laid on 10 because I think you're talking about 3/4 of the debt is 10 years or less.
Yeah,
I get it's expensive, but it's like the money was spent. It's not, I'm not advocating for people's tax bills to be higher. That's like, but I'm very concerned about.
Oh, I am too, but you gotta have the money to pay it. And I mean, seriously, I'm curious, what do you people?
But the problem is if we draw it out to 15 years, 10 years from now, people will be in an even worse position than they are now because you're layering debt on top of debt that you've drawn out for the term of the.
Well, yes and no, Jeff, because 15 years from now, some of us may not be here. We won't give a darn at that point. I mean, seriously.
That's a great gift to give to the following generation.
Yeah, but let's fix facts. But it's the
That's one way to approach it.
You get a fire truck.
Exactly. Hey, I'm not gonna be here.
You know, seriously.
We're gonna enjoy it while it lasts, but you're gonna have to pay for it.
Better practice is to match the debt term with what you're financing.
Yeah, as best you can.
As best you
As
can.
best you
So,
can.
I agree.
Yeah,
It's much easier when you borrows for large projects.
I'm curious to see what these people say. Any comments out here, or don't I not have the right to ask?
So of course you can have, I mean, we're in discussion.
Where he's coming from, Jeff is, I'm very money savvy. And I want things paid off before we have to replace them.
Yeah.
As sucky as that is, yeah, I don't want my taxes going up either, but you know what? It's inevitable, and he made a really good point. You're exhausting one every year at the same time as we're adding one every year.
so that, to that point, it's like buying a car. And,
Yeah,
you've got a long loan. Well, your car broke down and you don't have the car anymore, but you're still paying on the loan.
right.
That's a horrible situation to be in because now you got to buy a new car.
Yep.
And now you got two car loans to pay. Because you're not done. That's the situation that Jeff's describing.
No, I understand the scene. Going up and they're going up and there's nothing we can do about it. I'm sorry, say it again, Connie. I said our taxes are just gonna keep going up. That's how we're gonna have a lot of people exiting this town. I'm serious. Because I mean, it's one thing when you're still young enough to be working, but if you're retired. Pardon? It's all over the place.
Yeah, it's not just Belleville.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Oh, I'm not happy about it either. We're retired and I've got friends that are retired and they live off of their social security, which this isn't gonna cut it. That's a lot of things are gonna. And it's gonna be hard. Some people have to sell, but then I sit there and think, how the heck am I ever gonna rent?
And you can't rent.
Rent is too high.
Yeah.
So I'll stay in my little house and pay my taxes as long as I can.
And I think, again, I'm sensitive to the cash flow issue, right, which is what you're talking about, which is like, it's more expensive. I get that.
Mhm.
But in the grand scheme of things, and again, I get it. But when you start talking about a $300,000 home, you're talking about it going from $58 to $77, which is basically $19 for a whole year. Additional fee,
But that's just for this.
correct. Agreed. I understand, but this is the
And the
debt.
next thing, somebody else is.
Well, but this is for debt for purchases that were made in 2023 and 2024. To Ian's point, as this stuff that was done 10 years ago or 15 years ago, depending on how long it was financed, that stuff starts falling off. So it does.
It's been a big deal.
It's
It's just that
right.
when the next one comes up and then we got it.
Agreed, yeah, but I guess where I go with that is, again, it gets to what Mike was talking about, which is this type of debt isn't stuff that you want to be underwater like a car, where you're saying, we added 20 or it's 58 instead, and then next year it's another 50. Like that adds up and it doesn't taper off because we've extended it out. So 15 years from now, when Connie and I are having this conversation, probably me on the other side of the table saying, holy, what the heck, right? That's where it gets really painful because we will think back to this conversation thinking, yeah, we should have paid the extra $19 for 10 years instead of like taking the 58 for 15.
Well, I see where you're coming from, but I have to agree with Connie. If this was the only thing that's gonna make my taxes go up, I'd say, let's pay it off now. But they're getting the fire budget was ridiculous.
We'll wait till tomorrow night.
And wait till tomorrow night, EMS, my house is probably gonna go up for sale next week. Seriously. When I get the.
How much?
tax bill.
I'm just joking.
We thought we fill one spot before you create it.
What'd you say, Ian?
Wait till fill one spot before you make another vacancy.
So I just looked it up. So we had debt service for our 2014 general obligation note through, it was State Bank of Cross Plains. It was for $515,000. That's the one that retired this year. That was $80,000 in debt service.
I agree with Jeff, and I try to do that with our bills. I try to pay them now, not tomorrow, not next week. But I'm thinking, how are we gonna get this money from? The individual residents of this town. And it's a big difference, like if you're still working. But if you're not, it's an altogether different ballgame.
I get it.
It's the only way that the village runs, is on our tax. That's what they run on. Our taxes have to go up, or what are we gonna have? Like it or not.
Provides a good service.
What did you say, Tony?
He's gonna propose an amendment before.
I'd like to make an amendment to the original motion that we take out the loan for 10 years for the 2023-2024 capital borrow.
Second.
So you guys, is there a unanimous consent to change that? Or do we need to vote on it?
Who just seconded it? You?
Mike did.
Mike did.
Does anybody object to the amendment? So it would change it from a 15.
You would change it.
Yeah,
You
to
would
10.
change yours.
Yeah, I'm fine with moving it to just a 10-year, so I just wanted a motion out there. So
I understand, yeah, to make. Is there any objection to going to 10-year?
When I look at the price, I say I object to the whole thing. I mean, seriously.
Okay.
And I understand that we need this.
That's fine.
And it's just like, are you kidding?
Calm down over there. I know you want it to be easy for your minutes, but. So.
Yes. Is there any other comments relative to this motion or the other motion you had a comment?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
When the houses do get built and people add in, will that help with burden on taxes?
I would hope,
in a
But
few
we
years?
have more services that come with that as well, so it's, but yes, I mean, I think in the end,
my take on it, which is I'm only one of 7, obviously, but I think everybody here is pretty trying to be fiscally responsible. But I mean, the reality is that, yeah, we need to be very conscientious of finances and try to navigate it carefully because we don't want to add on up huge burdens, right? Like that's,
So I was just wondering how the new houses would add into this aspect in the future.
There's growing pains, and you gotta remember that when you see a new house go up, we don't get tax money from that for 2 years. So, because we get paid in arrears, and so we get paid in arrears from the assessed value on January 1 of the prior year. So the houses that go up this year, we're not gonna see their full value on the taxes until 26.
Plus, as the number of houses increase, our services increase. We need more police, we need bigger schools, we need this, we need that.
right.
Water
I mean-
tower, sewer.
I mean, there's a lot of bases where you can build efficiencies off of, but yeah, I mean, when you reach a certain tipping point, then there's the growing pains of playing catch up, like with perfect example is 2007 with the sewer plant extension. You know, they were experiencing growth then, so they're like, hey, let's double the size of the sewer plant or however it worked out, and which, you know, totally valid. But then the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the point now where, okay, we're at half our capacity, but we've got on the books, if everything goes perfectly, we'll reach our capacity by the time all the developments in front of us are built in the next 5 to 10 years. So
5 to 10 years, we're still a ways out. But that's the thing, right? We do have things that sewer, I don't think it's gonna get cheaper necessarily, but we actually get an advantage of the fact. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, but that's my point is that we're, you know, things are starting to level out. We can actually manage that.
correct.
And if you also, if we don't grow, the prices are still going up. So then you have less people to share.
Right.
And so it becomes 10 times worse.
and this year's a good example of that with our budget because we had net new construction of 1.4%. So that's the amount we can raise our tax levy by. When all of the costs we experience are anywhere between 3 and 12% increase, we only get to increase our revenue by 1.4% to cover 3 to 12% increases or more with some emergency budgets. And so it's,
Crazy.
yeah,
It's not like we've got money coming in hand over fist, unfortunately. If we did, we'd pay off more debt. Then we wouldn't have to deal with this.
that probably wouldn't happen. I love the sentiment. That probably wouldn't
Yeah, I understand. Exactly. So, okay, so we've got an amendment proposed by Tony to adjust the term, Gary's initial term from 15 years to a 10-year payment schedule. So I'll do all in favor. Aye. Opposed,
I still oppose it.
which is fine. So we got opposed 1, 4 in favor, so that passes. So now the proposed. So this is only for the capital fund debt issuance is now on a 10-year term. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Maxine?
Yes, I oppose.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just wanna make
I was
sure.
writing notes.
You're on the record. Okay, which is not a bad thing, just, so that passes and a vote of 4 to 1. Did we the loan interim for the interim loan is an annual for USDA, so we don't need to do anything relative to that. Or
We need to make a motion for that.
I'm sorry.
You
need to make a motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed interim financing for USDA.
Second.
That motion's by me, seconded by Mike. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So that carries. Good. All right. Next, reports, committees, for boards, committees, commissions and committees. Dave, anything from joint review board?
All the TID projects all passed, so that's how we're able to do this tonight. So we're good there. We have discussed, not necessarily at the joint review board, but Ian and I today with Brian. Right now, we're in TID 5. The expenditure period is done. We're gonna discuss with Brian, but it may make more sense to close this out. Especially if we're gonna start developing by Piggly Wiggly out there. That's a commercial district and retail district. It might make more sense to close this and create one over there. It's still things we're trying to figure out, but it's stuff that we're.
There's a couple things with the water gets real murky depending on what we want to do over the next 5 years, what is going to happen.
So what's the harm in keeping it open?
But we can't, unless we're doing the projects that you originally proposed in that. We're not, like, we haven't done anything. So no new projects.
TID 5 is this area.
Yeah, it should be in fact starting this year with like $1,000 deficit in fund balance up to this year. By the termination, the natural termination of the TID, we will have accrued a little over $1 million by Eller's estimates. We've got a project list from when the TID was created that we could carry out, but most of it honestly is obsolete projects we're not going to do anyway, including, over $1 million to rehab the depot and a few other things. There are some projects in there that could potentially help us out in areas that we kind of need to explore that as far as blighted properties go. So that's something that we kind of need to suss out a little bit more, I think, before we make a recommendation. But if we don't end up doing any projects on the TID and keep it open, all we're doing is acting as a fiduciary for the tax money for the other taxing districts. So there's no benefit to keep it open, and it would harm us if we wanted and were capable of opening another TID in an area that we think could do well. The fact that we have our equalized value in an open TID would hurt the calculations for us to be able to open a new one. Because you can only have 12% of your total equalized value in TID districts. And TID 3 is doing great. It's wonderful, but it's kind of screwing us when it comes to that calculation because so much of our value is in that TID now. But yeah.
Community Development Authority, Mike, or did you have more from that, Gabe?
Nope.
Good. Mike, Community Development Authority?
We just talked about possibly joining CDA and EDC, and that was decided that wasn't a good idea based on the discussion and looking at probably adding tourism to EDC at some point. And that was pretty much it.
Police Committee, Tony?
So we gave Cody approval so that they could put their body camera policy and their use of force policy online so that they can get federal money. As far as the 5th, we didn't have that meeting because it was canceled. And we have a meeting on the 10th and the 12th.
We're interviewing
Candidates on the 12th.
candidates for the chief, yeah, on the 12th. And then what is the next step in that process is the
24th.
Which will be open to the public for like a meet and greet, I think is part of that.
Yeah, we haven't figured out what time yet. It'll kind of depend. It'll be in the evening. But once we know how many candidates you're bringing forward.
It is for the public's purpose. That's likely later this month. Just in time for UFO days. Finance and governments, sorry.
Budget stuff.
Yep.
Budget stuff and budget stuff.
Your next meeting, so on Monday, you're gonna discuss utilities with Kayla. So Brian has another meeting that he has to go to. Kayla is the former administrator of Butler, Wisconsin. Ian and I know her quite well. She's technically our backup financial advisor. It's Brian and Kayla is our team. You'll like her quite a bit.
We are definitely doing a village board meeting then at 6 o'clock that night.
6 o'clock, so the finance meeting will probably start like 6:15, 6:30.
What's that board meeting?
That's just to do the plan commission.
The Bakerswood.
Bakerswood.
That should have been tonight.
We were gonna put it tonight, so it's not gonna take very long. It's literally just approving what the plan commission, or considering
Monday night is next Monday.
next Monday. Emergency management,
We are reviewing the emergency plan that will eventually come to board, but we're not having any more emergency management meetings this year, so look for that in the new year.
plan commission, the only thing I've got is we'll be talking about on Monday, which is the new development, Baker's Woods 3. That's proposed.
This upcoming Monday, you have 17th.
That's
Yes.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday. I haven't even looked at yet.
Just got it today, so.
Okay, Public Works, Gary.
Whatever main stuff came here tonight, the next meeting will be October 30th, because the 28th is be another finance and governance meeting. So Wednesday, the 30th at 6 o'clock will be our next meeting.
Have
What
to wear
time,
costumes
Gary?
for that if
6.
we come.
Pardon?
Wear costumes if we come.
Sure.
The day before.
Sure.
Fire.
Fire. Okay. Fire annual meeting.
Went well.
Certainly, yeah.
Said it. Want to see a good meeting come tomorrow night. The budget passed, the village voted no, but the budget passed, with a 7% increase, I think it was, so.
Without representation.
Tomorrow night CMS meeting.
Yes.
That's at 7, isn't it, Gary?
At the EMS building.
Is that EMS or is that here?
It's at the EMS building.
Is that the EMS?
It is at the EMS.
That is correct.
Great.
We'll all be wedged in that little meeting.
I get the fire department there. Continuously combust.
Yeah.
Okay, Parks and Recreation, I think we were talking a lot about trees for the west side and trying to navigate that, as well as laying foundation for getting the new park space out on the side designed and the initial steps for that.
So I've applied for 2 grants for forestry so far this year, one for 8,000 and change and one for 5,000 through the link that you sent me. So I haven't heard back by anything yet, though.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things relative to that is just that we're trying to navigate capacity issues with Public Works, and this isn't a dig on them at all, but we want to make sure whatever plan we come up with for putting trees on the west side is actually sustainable, that we can actually do what we're saying we're gonna do and actually get trees out there and planted and healthy, that we can water and do all those things, that we're not overextending ourselves and it's sustainable, but also that we literally get trees in the ground. So that's what's in process. Economic development, nothing really to report there. I know we had, we're finalizing a survey that will go out relative to businesses or services that residents would like to see. We did have a joint meeting with community development. I think we ultimately, community development's got some authorities that we wanted. It made sense to keep them separate basically, but economic development, we're also likely going to be looking to, I don't say change the structure, but we need to find more membership show up on a regular basis for that committee. So if you know anybody that wants to get up at 7 in the morning on the first Thursday of every month,
You gotta be here. So
gotta be here at 7 a.m.
Yes. So. Let us know.
And Jeff, that survey is open to not just residents. It's going to be.
It's to everybody. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So anybody that would be interested in visiting Belleville has visited, residents, businesses, whatever. So. And then last but not least, arts and culture, Mike.
Discussed UFO days, and that's all moving forward. You want a list of events or sign up for parade or anything, that can all be done off their website. So that's all good.
Volunteer opportunities, basically.
Yep. And I did not get a chance to talk about Marion Bright, but coming up and closely related to that, the cookie walk. Currently, there is nobody anywhere that's heading up the cookie walk. So we're gonna need someone to step up in the community to do it. It won't happen. Someone needs to
I've
take.
been better on the weed.
lead on that.
Need committee?
We don't need help growing them.
I was on the weed committee once. Not long ago. Oh, not that kind.
What would heading up the cookie walk would entail basically figuring out how to coordinate it, getting stuff organized or rounding up more volunteers, I suspect.
Exactly, being the point on it. It's not the committee's duty to run events.
Happy to help, but I don't have time to.
It's a good lie.
100 doesn't isn't that much.
I'm not cooking. Nobody wants my, well, if I had time, I'm actually probably decent at baking cookies, but under the current situation, nobody wants.
Must have been out on Facebook page or on the website. We should put something on there. See if we can get a
I think that
volunteer.
was planned along with some surveys to go out too.
There are at least 2 brick and mortar, and I know more home-based businesses in town that bake.
Yes.
Well, don't think it's about getting cookies.
When you're asked the day before to buy several hundred cookies, it's about baking cookies.
But I think it's the organizing with local
Yeah.
businesses and making, like recruiting people.
She like that.
Okay.
You asked me to buy some.
No.
Go ahead.
Senior citizens. Senior citizens.
Senior center.
Yep, the senior center. Citizen Center has earned enough money that now they're looking for somebody to remodel their kitchen.
Nice.
And the money that they're getting back from the embezzlement, and she did not pay the full payment, and so they're giving her till the 1st of December. And hopefully she'll be back in on record of doing it correctly. So outside of that, they're also getting ready for UFO days.
Now, are they incorporated in the volunteer thing that you guys are doing as well? Or senior center volunteers for their portion of UFO days?
They handle, the way it works, each group handles their own portion.
Okay, I'm just asking,
of
just because I know they do like the
UFO days,
5K and that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, they're going to actually have a color run and they are having a craft show, which
Yep.
they do every year.
Yep. Okay, any news and announcements?
That's valid.
Upcoming community events, obviously UFO Nights is coming up. End of the month, Halloween, trick or treating, we've got, so.
The public safety night is tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
It's Tuesday, right? No, it's Wednesday.
Say it's public safety night.
What day is it? Today.
They bring out the fire engines and kids can go through. It's quite-
You're right, that it's also the planning committee.
Right. That's why I didn't remember.
It's funny.
Here, doing that. So yes.
And a call from my father.
Answer it.
Been
That's why I was gonna say, you gotta answer those.
Put it on speaker.
If my dad called me Connie, I would be answering. I'm just joking.
Here, let me record it.
That's creepy.
That's creepy. That's nasty.
I had that happen too. My dad passed in 2017, and last year at some point I got a text message from him.
This is sorry. It's a phone call. My dad's been dead since 80 something. That's terrible. They're gonna take us all out.
Well, future agenda items, anything else that we need to?
So when we do our one-on-ones, I'm gonna be introducing you to a new track software that we're using to track agenda items, community development portals, all of that. So instead of having to say, hey, what's on the agenda? You will have access to this and you will know how long you'll sit here. So I'm doing it for your benefit now. And then we are looking at, I met with Safe Routes to School last week, before I had to leave, and, we're looking at November 6th. So it's the day after the, election at the school, to do their night of the, it's not a village run meeting, it's a,
The school board meeting?
it's actually the, KO engineering for the public hearing, just to talk about Safe Routes to School.
Okay,
That'll happen on November 6th. We're looking at 4:30 to 6:30.
so Wednesday?
Nothing, like, it won't be a village board meeting. It'll just be their public input that residents can just swing by and share.
So we need to be present.
We want to and hear people's comments, but
You gotta let her know, 'cause she's gonna notice it. If you guys are gonna be there.
we'll do it.
So I gotta look at the calendar. I might have to be in town because I gotta do travel. So
But they will come back and
Will be
share with the
recorded?
village board.
will be recorded.
It should be, yeah. And it's mainly just a meet and greet, what you have,
After school.
Do you
That's
guys
school
remember-
library, school library, I'm assuming is what we're talking about.
the corp, or do you remember the corp plan that it was kind of just point things at the map and just meet with them? It'll be very similar to that. And then they're gonna come to a board meeting after that and share, this is what we have come up with. So if you truly can't make it, that's okay. There will be another time.
And what's the time frame to get that report back from them?
They're hoping to have it done by the end of this year.
Okay.
And then we've spent probably 4 hours. And if you have any questions for the village board interviews on the 21st, just let me know. If you have anything that you want to ask or else I have a draft. If you have any questions that you feel like need to be asked, just send me an email.
Okay. Next item is closed session. The Village of Belleville Village Board will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 subsection 1 subsection E for the purposes of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing in public funds, or conducting other specified businesses. Whenever competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session, the village board may reconvene into open session and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session. And this is regarding establishing a negotiating position regarding Belleville Fire and.
Five clubs.
A motion
Make that motion.
to go into closed session.
Second.
Gary, seconded by Tony. Got to a roll call for this.
We do. Okay. Trustee Bannon.
Yep.
Trustee Ward.
Yes.
Trustee Ziegler.
Yes.
Trustee Zervis.
Yes.
President Larson.
Yes,
We're in closed session.
7:53 PM.